Hello, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is an ancient spiritual practice from India. It means being in reality together. I give Satsang live every Wednesday and Sunday night in Portland, Maine. This Dharma talk was recorded during one of our Wednesday night gatherings. Please visit jayakula.org to learn more about the teachings. You can find video satsangs on Jayakula's YouTube channel, and my books are all available on Amazon.com. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. Those of you who are newer might not know that one of the guiding principles of sadhana, of spiritual practice in this community, is hosting. And that's really been something that's there from the beginning of Jayakula. The inspiration from that is twofold. One is that one of the names, or the many, many names of God, of what we call Shiva, is the host. And then the other reason is because I've always been very interested in, and I would even say obsessed with, hosting since I was a little kid. I take that to be an indicator of that I would eventually have a spiritual path, but it started out with yelling at my mom about not being a good host. So, when we talk about Lord Shiva, or God, or reality, or that being the host, we mean, first of all, that in a dualistic sense, existence itself, that alive, aware reality, is providing us with a place to be, or a sense of place, or a sense of space. That's what the host does. The host invites you into a space and then serves you. So, although we all are made of that same reality, there is a game afoot, and that game is called hosting, where we feel we are in a world. So that world is the space that we've been invited into. And we are being offered food, and a place to sit, and a place to wash, and all of the things that happen in Indian households anyway. When you get invited as a guest, you get your feet washed if it's a very traditional household, and you get fed food. So we can think of the host in that way, and as a metaphor for our whole lives. But in a bigger sense, this reality is continually pouring wisdom into us in the form of compassion and all of the wisdom virtues that we can identify as being part of enlightened essence nature. Those things are always available to us. Now, the problem is that Lord Shiva is a perfect host, but we aren't perfect guests. When you are a guest in someone's home, what do you try to do? You try to kind of fit in with the culture of that house, right? When someone's hosting you, you're kind of on your best behavior, and you're looking to see how the culture of that house is. And you might even eat some food that's unfamiliar to you, or try to behave in a particularly accommodating way to accommodate whatever happens there. So we want to be good hosts, and I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but we also want to be good guests of the Lord. In order to be a guest of the Lord, we have to figure out what is the culture of existence. And that's what we do when we're doing spiritual practice. We're trying to discover what is the basic culture of existence, and I call those wisdom virtues. We're trying to discover how to relate to other people in a good way, how to see what's happening with clarity, how to be free to express ourselves playfully, because in the house of the Lord, there is a playful drama going on continually, night and day. If we're in the house of the Lord being self-protective, defensive, self-concerned, earnest, worried, anxious, aggressive, then we are out of sync with the culture of the house that we have been invited into. And that's what we call limitation. So at first, most of us are very bad guests. We come into the house of the Lord and we knock things over, and we refuse to eat what's being given to us. And we treat the other guests with less compassion and skillfulness than the host. So we're really like very bad guests at first. And we are trying to learn how to be better guests. How do you become a better guest? You observe the ways of your host. So we do that. We observe the ways of the host through teachers, through seeing how our teachers are, through looking into our own wisdom hearts and seeing how that is, by looking into nature and discovering the wisdom there, by looking into circumstance and discovering how things are there. So observation, that kind of insight that invokes all of our senses and all of our intelligence, is how we learn how to be good guests in the house of the Lord. Whenever we're holding on to our sense of being a separate individual, we are being bad guests. Because that circumstance, when we insist on our separateness, gives rise to all of those bad guest behaviors. We really want to try to discover the emptiness of our self-concept. How it really doesn't refer to anything solid. When I say emptiness, I don't mean that it doesn't exist. It is a real experience. I mean that it is not a solid, separate event. We are a certain kind of density that is indistinguishable from the infinity of consciousness and energy. We don't have any substance in the way that we think we do. And when we unduly try to protect ourselves or unduly try to defend and aggress, when we run around worrying about ourselves, when we try to attack other people to avoid having to feel things that we feel, when we are overly self-concerned out of a sense of urgency about protecting something or preserving something, then we are misunderstanding our real nature. And so we become clumsy guests, bulls in the china shop. Some people think they're going to analyze their way through to enlightenment. But your object of analysis doesn't exist. The analysis, the process of analysis, and the thing that you're analyzing are both products of your karma. What you have to do is discover a real experience of the emptiness of that self-concept. Only then can you discover the fullness of everything. So emptiness is something that we have to be willing to go through. We have to be willing to entertain the possibility that we are not as we think we are. We're really like a jumble sail in the plane of infinity. We're just like a collection of bits and bobs with a lot of empty space, coming from everywhere, going nowhere. And this sense of the emptiness of our self, of our self-concept, and of its infinity and of its boundarylessness can be experienced really directly. So I want everyone to close their eyes right now. And please bring your awareness into the center of your chest. When people say I this and I that, if they're going to refer to themselves, they'll point with your finger to the center of your chest. If you're saying something very emphatic about I. So we have this intuitive sense that there's something about our selfness, our self-feeling, that is happening or coming from the center of our chest. But when you put your awareness there, there actually isn't anything there. So I want everybody to go in there and see if you can feel yourself, that self that you think you are. You can even say internally your name. Can you call that person that you think you are? Can you call that out from the center of your chest? What you're going to find is that when you say your name there, it's just ridiculous. Because there's nothing there. There's nothing there that is that self that you think you are. Even in your whole body, if you experience the interior of your whole body, when you try to locate that thing you call yourself, that little I, it isn't anywhere to be found. It's much easier to discover an experience of emptiness inside than of something actually being there, weirdly enough. Emptiness is right there at our fingertips, but that I that we spend our entire lives defending and protecting is nowhere to be found. If you put your awareness inside your left forearm, there's nothing there. It's a sense of darkness and space and some lively feeling. Even the much proclaimed brain of modern science, if you put your awareness inside your head, there's not really anything there. If you be aware of the whole inside of you, your supposed body, sensing the whole inside of your body all at once, looking for that I, there's nothing there. And now if you bring your awareness to your whole skin, that supposed boundary between you and everything else, if you feel the boundary of your whole skin everywhere, or even just in one place, you can feel that it isn't really a boundary. It's more like a field. You can feel on the boundary, supposedly, of your skin, a field of liveliness. It's like an energy. It's not really solid at all. So where are you? Where is this thing that you're always worrying about? It's a concept. It's produced. It's just a concept produced out of an ignorance of your real nature. And that main ignorance is that you're separate. If you feel your whole skin, it isn't really solid. It's not really an end. So now if you feel your whole existence, whatever you can feel, anywhere, inside, outside, inside your body or your skin or anywhere, inside your heart, what you really can sense only is spaciousness and liveliness. There's kind of a hum or a buzz or a feeling of aliveness and some space and some darkness and maybe some color and light. This is your vaunted sense of self. This is your vaunted ego. It's a bunch of space and a buzz. This is much closer to what you really are. Lord Shiva is the host, space. Shakti is energy, the buzz. This real experience that you're having, this direct experience that you're having right now, however much you're able to have it, is much closer to what your real nature is than any concept that you have of yourself. You may think, oh, this is just a trick. But it's not a trick, because your senses are actually your real gateway to enlightened wisdom. The concepts that you have about reality are obstructing your direct perception of who you really are. So far from being a trick, being able to perceive directly with your own senses what is actually your experience of yourself, which is much closer to what reality is actually like. This vastness and presence. You can feel that vastness and presence right inside of you, right on the surface of your skin. Abhinavagupta said it's stupid not to trust your direct experience of yourself. Not in those exact words, but something like that. So try to remember what you really are. We have to walk backwards and rediscover confidence in our direct experience of ourselves. And stop placing so much confidence in the stories we've been told about what a self is and what a person is. You're both much less than you've been told and much more. But when you start to have confidence in your own direct experience of reality, and you discover that you are actually made of energy and this feeling of spaciousness, and further on and deeper in, you'll also discover those wisdom virtues, that supreme intelligence that you're also made of. You'll discover that too directly, just like you're having a direct experience right now. These are much more reliable perceptions than the concepts that you have about yourself that you've largely been taught by a psychologistic culture. And then you've conformed your experience to that. So if we want to be good guests in the house of the Lord, we need to start from this experience of living presence. This is how we become more like God, when we have this experience of ourselves and let this guide us. When we have this experience of ourselves, we can also be better hosts. Even just here at Jayakula, where we do a fair amount of hosting of people who come for teachings and other events and things, if we were in this understanding of the self, how much more immediate and loving and real would be the way that we greet people and treat people, rather than just sort of some formula that sometimes happens, right? Some people have given some feedback over, the last year, I guess, about hosting, or just about the community that some people have felt that we don't really get to know people somehow. People want to be asked more questions or engaged with in a different way. And that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're asking questions or serving tea, if we're being in our concept self. But if we're being in more of the experience of what we really are, then we don't have to do anything but love people. Because there's a kind of a nakedness, and there's nothing at stake when we're being in this more real experience of what it means to be showing up like this. If you have the experience present to you that you are this spaciousness and energy, what are you defending? There's nothing to defend. There's nothing to be worrying about. There's nothing to be angry about. There's nothing to be thinking, oh, I have to perform this way to be thought well of. There's none of that. You can just be genuine. So you have to actually give up analyzing and worrying about something that doesn't exist. I know that's a bitter pill for some of you. What are you going to do with your time? You're just sitting around feeling your energy and your emptiness. But a whole different kind of way of living arises out of that. A whole different relationship to being a person arises from that experience. And look, it's so easy to experience. But we have so bought into the narrative of what a person is that we think this is a trick. It's actually the other way around. I'm going to stop there. But I don't really stop anywhere, so. Jayakula is a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. We are based in Portland, Maine and Portland, Oregon. Visit jayakula.org to explore more of our offerings.